The news of the sudden and inexplicable disappearance of Carly has sent massive shockwaves through the canvas, but nowhere is that tremor felt more violently than in the mind of Sonny. When we analyze this from a purely psychological standpoint, we know that Sonny operates on a dangerous hair trigger whenever the mother of his children is threatened. This is not just a standard missing person case. This is an existential threat to his entire world order, a direct challenge to his authority and his ability to protect the people he loves most. Let us break down the exact sequence of events that leads to this terrifying escalation. When all efforts to contact Carly fail, when her phone goes straight to voicemail time and time again, Sonny does not just lose his temper, he completely loses his grip on rational thought. You can almost see the exact moment the switch flips in his mind, turning him from a calculating strategist into a desperate, cornered animal. He does not consult with his usual network of informants. He does not wait for official channels to do their jobs. Instead, his mind immediately locks onto a single, solitary target, Cullum. In Sonny's eyes, Cullum is the only logical variable that fits the equation of this kidnapping. This immediate tunnel vision is a classic trauma response from Sonny, a man who has spent decades fighting invisible enemies and now desperately needs a physical face to punch. The ambush itself is a calculated move born out of pure, unadulterated desperation and blinding rage. Sonny does not send his enforcers to do the dirty work. He takes matters into his own hands. Without warning anyone, he launches a solo manhunt. Tracking down the scattered leads, he corners Cullum in a blind spot, executing a flawless, aggressive takedown. The sheer violence of this ambush implies that Sonny has already acted as judge, jury, and executioner before a single word is even spoken. He drags Cullum away from the prying eyes of the public, spiriting him away to one of his infamous, dimly lit coffee warehouses. This location is not just a convenient backdrop, it is an instrument of psychological terror, deeply steeped in the history of Sonny's darkest, most unforgiving deeds. Inside the cavernous, echoing walls of that warehouse, the atmosphere is absolutely suffocating. The heavy scent of roasted coffee beans mixes with the sharp tang of fear. Cullum is tightly bound, isolated, and staring directly into the eyes of a man who has absolutely nothing left to lose. Sonny issues a chilling ultimatum, his voice devoid of any warmth, mercy, or hesitation. He demands to know exactly where Carly is being held, making it abundantly clear that Cullum has only two choices: confess the truth and reveal the location, or prepare to never leave that warehouse alive. Cullum, sweating profusely and visibly terrified, vehemently denies any involvement. He swears up and down that he is completely innocent, that he has absolutely no idea where Carly is or who took her. But if you ask me, his desperate pleas fall on completely deaf ears because Sonny's confirmation bias is simply too strong to overcome. The shattered trust Sonny has in the authorities and his own compromised security makes him entirely impervious to Cullum's frantic defense. Sonny watches Cullum squirm, analyzing every drop of sweat and every tremor in his voice, but instead of seeing an innocent man pleading for his life, Sonny only sees a stubborn liar protecting a darker secret. Sonny's historical pattern of behavior dictates that when he feels this level of helpless terror regarding Carly, he compensates with absolute, unyielding aggression. He is so blinded by his own narrative that he cannot even entertain the possibility that he has made a catastrophic mistake. However, while Sonny is playing the role of the vengeful interrogator in the shadows, his most trusted confidant, Brick, is operating quietly behind the scenes, and he is beginning to see the massive, glaring cracks in the narrative. Brick is a man of pure logic, a man who reads the digital footprints, the surveillance blind spots, and the hidden patterns that everyone else misses. As Brick digs deeper into the timeline of the disappearance and the evidence pointing to Cullum, he begins to realize that Sonny might be driving at full speed down a catastrophic dead end. The evidence pointing to Cullum is almost too perfect, too neatly packaged, leaving a trail of breadcrumbs that feels entirely artificial. Brick strongly suspects that Cullum is nothing more than a pawn, a sacrificial lamb placed on the board to distract Sonny from the real mastermind. This implies that the true orchestrator of this nightmare is someone with a highly sophisticated understanding of Sonny's psychological triggers. They knew exactly how Sonny would react to Carly going missing, and they deliberately served Cullum up on a silver platter to keep Sonny occupied. This brings us to a crucial fork in the road of our analysis. If Cullum is merely a scapegoat, we must look at the hidden motives of the other major players currently operating in the shadows of this city. Let us explore Scenario A, the vengeful phantoms. Could it be that the real architect behind the abduction of Carly is either Sidwell or Cassius? We know for a fact that Sidwell recently orchestrated a daring, violent escape and is actively setting a devastating trap for his enemies. Taking Carly would be the ultimate psychological motive to completely break Sonny, drawing him out into the open and entirely destabilizing his empire. In this scenario, Sidwell uses his vast underground connections to snatch Carly right out from under everyone's noses. He knows that Sonny's empire relies on stability, and by removing the queen from the board, Sidwell forces Sonny into a state of chaotic vulnerability. Sidwell is a master of psychological warfare, and watching Sonny torture the wrong man while he holds the real prize would be exactly his brand of twisted entertainment. Alternatively, within scenario A, we must consider the highly deceptive nature of Cassius. Cassius is currently facing immense pressure and intense scrutiny from all sides. He might be using Carly as ultimate leverage to secure his own survival and manipulate the police force from within. Cassius operates on endless layers of deception, and framing Cullum would be a classic misdirection tactic to keep the heat off his own illicit operations. If scenario A is true, it looks like Sonny is wasting precious, irreplaceable hours interrogating an innocent man while the real monsters are tightening the noose around Carly. The unforeseen fallout of this massive mistake could be fatal, as every single minute Sonny spends screaming at Cullum in that warehouse is a minute Sidwell or Cassius uses to solidify their tactical advantage. But ladies, we must also consider a far more sinister, globally connected, and structurally terrifying possibility. Let us transition to scenario B, the intelligence mastermind. What if the person pulling the strings is none other than Brennan? If you ask me, this theory holds a terrifying amount of logical weight. Brennan operates on a level of strategic planning that makes local mob skirmishes look like absolute child's play. He views human lives as mere assets and liabilities on a heavily encrypted ledger. We know that Valentin is already backed into a dangerous corner, desperately trying to save Jocelyn and publicly willing to sacrifice his own freedom to do so. Could it be that Brennan has orchestrated this entire kidnapping, taking Carly to force Valentin's hand once and for all? In scenario B, Brennan views Carly not as a person, but as the ultimate, irresistible bait. By capturing Carly and locking her away, Brennan creates an impossible, high-stakes pressure cooker. He knows that Valentin has a deep, complex, and protective connection to this family, and that the combined threat to both Carly and Jocelyn will flush Valentin out of hiding faster than any official warrant ever could. This calculated move is brilliantly designed to force Valentin into a corner where he must surrender completely to the agency's demands. Brennan using Cullum as a convenient fall guy is a classic intelligence agency maneuver, create a loud local suspect to distract the aggressive local warlord, while the real surgical operation happens quietly in the shadows. The ulterior motive here is entirely about controlling Valentin and manipulating global intelligence assets, with Carly simply being unfortunate collateral damage in a much larger geopolitical game of chess. Regardless of whether we are looking at the vengeful wrath of scenario A or the cold, calculated espionage of scenario B, the terrifying reality remains exactly the same. Sonny has captured the wrong man. As he stands in that dark coffee warehouse, completely blinded by his own rage and his desperate need for control, the clock is ticking down to absolute zero. He is entirely unaware that his aggressive pursuit of Cullum is exactly what the real kidnapper wanted. It is a brilliant, agonizing delay tactic that is working flawlessly. Sonny is exhausting his resources, isolating his allies, and wasting the only window of opportunity he has to actually save the woman he loves. And while Sonny wastes this precious time demanding answers from a man who has none to give, we must turn our attention to the horrific reality currently facing Carly. She is not just missing. She has been thrown headfirst into a living nightmare. The most gut-wrenching, emotionally devastating detail of this entire ordeal is that Carly has now been locked in a secret, undisclosed location, and she is not alone. She has been thrown into the very same dark, terrifying room as Jocelyn. Imagine the sheer psychological toll of that horrific moment. Carly, a woman who has fought her entire life with tooth and nail to protect her children from the darkness of her world, now finds herself trapped in a literal cage alongside her daughter, completely powerless to stop whatever is coming next. The environment they are trapped in is undoubtedly designed to break their spirits. The cold floors, the heavy locked doors, the agonizing lack of information, it is a pressure cooker of fear. Carly is forced to mask her own rising panic to keep Jocelyn calm, whispering promises of rescue that she herself is beginning to doubt. They are sitting in the dark, listening to every creak of the building, wondering if the next time the door opens, it will be their savior or their executioner. The emotional weight of this shared captivity is going to push both mother and daughter to their absolute limits, testing their resilience in ways we have never seen before. The mastermind behind this plot, whether it is the vengeful Sidwell, the deceptive Cassius, or the calculating Brennan, is now preparing for the final, devastating phase of their operation. They have successfully neutralized Sonny by sending him on a wild, aggressive goose chase. They have secured their high-value targets in Carly and Jocelyn, locking them away from the rest of the world. They are currently holding all the winning cards, and they know it. The tension is absolutely suffocating. Carly and Jocelyn are forced to rely entirely on their own wits to survive, knowing deep down that the men who usually ride to their rescue are either chasing ghosts in a coffee warehouse or walking directly into a meticulously laid trap. So, where does this leave us, my fellow viewers? If you ask me, we are speeding toward a catastrophic collision that will leave permanent, unhealable scars on this canvas. I highly doubt Sonny will realize his massive, catastrophic error until it is almost too late. Will Brick be able to break through Sonny's impenetrable wall of rage and present the logical truth before the mastermind executes their final, lethal move? Or will Valentine be forced to make the ultimate, tragic sacrifice, stepping directly into Brennan's trap to save both Carly and Jocelyn from a fate worse than death? I cannot say for certain how this will end, but I can promise you this. The shattered trust, the broken alliances, and the profound emotional devastation that will follow this storyline will echo through the halls of this show for years to come. The board is set, the pieces are trapped, and survival is not guaranteed for anyone involved.